we support Donald J. Trump for his commitment to promoting family values and protected our children's well-being, especially when it comes to curriculums and schools.
Donald Trump is playing our communities, is playing American voters, is playing the Arab and Muslim community. And it is failed democratic leadership that is allowing him to do that. I mean, the folks who voted for Trump are not theoretical to me. The folks who voted for Trump are my cousins, my friends, people who were tasked with a very difficult, task of carrying a lot of grief and trying to do a politically savvy thing at the same time.
They just sent migrants from Vietnam and Myanmar to South Sudan, a country plagued with violence, conflict, and political instability. And to all the older Vietnamese population, including my own family, who voted for him, fuck you. You forgot, turned your back, and sold us out to the very thing you ran away from. And all for what? To be close to whiteness? Newsflash, you'll never be white.
The Supreme Court has allowed for the termination of temporary protected status affecting about 350,000 Venezuelans who had registered for TPS under the Biden administration, the 2023 designation, which expired on April 2025. The Trump administration terminated that designation and terminated the extension, and it went to court, and the federal judge put a restraining order against that termination. And then it went to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the Trump administration requested expedite to go directly to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court came back down and said, no, the lower court cannot put a restraining order on this. This falls under the executive branch. They are allowed to continue to see what fits best for temporary protected status, and this falls under their job duties. So now the Trump administration has the green light to continue with their termination of TPS. Even though the case is still being litigated in the Ninth Circuit, the Trump administration can still continue with effectuating termination for TPS under the 2023 designation for Venezuelans.
Hello folks, how are you? I hope you're doing well wherever you are. Now, when Arabs voted for Donald Trump, they thought that they were voting for a system that would represent them. They thought that they were so proximal to whiteness, and now things are caught up with them, and they are outside here crying and saying that they didn't think that this was the case. I just want us to watch these videos that I have prepared for you, and then later on we can come and I'll share my commentary on the same. Let's share our views on concerning the same in the comment section. Let's get to learn from each other. I'm your presenter Turain, and if this is your first time in this channel, please consider subscribing, give us a like, share our content. We'll greatly appreciate. Let's rock in.
If it wasn't for the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr., and the Black community, the community that you are so racist towards, we wouldn't have any freedoms in America. You guys are so freaking brainwashed. None of them care about you unless you are a wealthy white man. You are not human. We are not human in their eyes.
Not only is the felon deporting immigrants when he's been ordered not to, he's sending them to countries where they're not even from, like South Sudan, which the State Department warns is too dangerous to visit. If we're not going to go there, why is he sending them there? At least 2 people from Myanmar and Vietnam were flown from Texas to South Sudan without interpreters or notice. The lawyers on the case suggest that there could be 10 more on the same flight. Here's the thing. A federal judge clearly barred sending people to third countries. But this administration ignored the order and didn't provide translators. These people had no idea what was going on. That means vulnerable families landed in a conflict zone full of crime and armed conflict. They were left confused and unprotected. That's criminal, and those responsible should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Attorneys filed an emergency request for their immediate return and argued that this defiance undermines judicial authority, because it does. So when these maggots brag about being tough on the border, they're actually breaking the law and risking lives, human lives. It's criminal theater. Let's demand accountability, because nobody should be sacrificed for a political stunt, huh? These are human beings, unlike our maggot trash. Spock.
So the Trump administration just deported 2 men to South Sudan. The problem? They're not from South Sudan. One is from Myanmar, the other is from Vietnam. And before you bigots get too excited, this was not a send them home situation. More of a dump them in a war zone and hope nobody notices situation. These men were deported in direct violation of a federal judge's orders, an order that required meaningful notice and a chance to raise torture concerns before being sent to a third country. Reminder, South Sudan has been in a brutal civil war since 2013. 2/3 of the population relies on humanitarian aid. The US literally says, do not travel. Under US and international law, we cannot deport anyone to a country wherein they face a substantial risk of torture. And that is not a suggestion, by the way, that is a binding obligation. So when the Trump administration ignores that law and a judge's order, they're not just breaking protocol, they're violating the Constitution and impeding on basic human rights. And let's be clear, this was not about national security, it was not about justice, this was about political theater at the expense of human lives. Plain and simple, deporting Vietnamese and Burmese asylum seekers to South Sudan is unlawful and dangerous. Upholding due process is essential regardless of how tough on immigration you may be.
Why are we deporting non-Sudanese people to South Sudan, a country on the brink of civil war, a country so dangerous that the U.S. State Department has a level 4 travel advisory because of armed conflict, violent crime, and kidnappings, a country where we have a limited consular staff that can only go outside during daylight hours with armed guards and have to travel in armored vehicles. Yet for some reason, we're deporting Burmese and Vietnamese migrants to South Sudan, a country where they don't know the language, where they don't know anyone, where they don't have a place to stay, and they have no money. And we don't know. There's no transparency. Are they being dropped off, or are they being put into the prison system? A prison system that is already overcrowded, that doesn't meet domestic or international standards for prisoner welfare. A prison system that routinely denies prisoners due process and any form of substantial legal representation, which is why it's against U.S. policy and against the court order that last month stated that the Trump administration had to stop deporting migrants to third countries without giving them a meaningful opportunity to challenge those deportations beforehand. And it's against international law, specifically the principle of non-refoulement, which means you cannot deport people to places where you think that their human rights are going to be violated. And it's against the UN Convention on Forced Disappearances because of the lack of transparency. The only reason we even know that this is happening is because 2 of the 12 migrants' lawyers sued in federal court to stop these deportations. The United States in these actions is committing crimes against humanity. Let that sink in.
Good God Almighty, why the hell do these atrocities keep happening in our nation? This is in reference to a breaking story from a couple of hours ago from the BBC that the United States has deported Asian migrants to South Sudan. I just want to clarify, BBC, that's not what deportation is. These folks were not sent back to their countries of origin from the United States. They were kidnapped, denied due process, and in direct violation of a court order, they were shipped to South Sudan. This is human trafficking. This is kidnapping. This is renditioning. This is not deportation. Mama D, I want to answer your question. Why does this keep happening in the United States in 2025? But first, let me add a little bit more context to this story because it is developing. According to the BBC, lawyers for multiple Asian migrants told the court that their clients were illegally removed from this country by the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration and flown to South Sudan. According to their attorneys, the 2 migrants are from Vietnam and Myanmar. They're not even from South Sudan. They're not even from the continent of Africa. Please understand the cruelty is the point here. Please understand that inflicting terror in our migrant population is absolutely the point of this action taken by the Trump regime. That's because South Sudan is currently going through an extremely brutal civil war. And multiple humanitarian groups have warned that it is not a safe country for immigrants. There's a high rate of sexual assault, of trafficking, of slavery, of physical brutality against immigrants who happen to be in South Sudan. I'm going to reference this BBC article again here. In a submission to a federal judge in Boston, attorneys said a flight carrying a dozen people, including citizens of Myanmar and Vietnam, landed in South Sudan on Tuesday. A previous court order had barred the United States government from deporting migrants to third countries. That's renditioning, that's not deporting, without being given meaningful opportunity to challenge such removals. The BBC has contacted the Department of Homeland Security for comment. The South Sudan is one of the world's poorest countries and has been plagued by conflict and political instability. Attorneys from the National Immigration Litigation Alliance asked the federal judge on Tuesday for an emergency order to prevent these deportations, and Judge Brian Murphy issued a ruling on the 18th of April requiring that illegal migrants have a chance to challenge their removal to countries other than their homelands. After reports surfaced that some of the migrants were going to be sent to Libya, and I covered that, Judge Murphy, a Biden appointee, said that any such move would clearly violate his ruling. Lawyers for the Burmese man said in Tuesday's court filing that their client speaks limited English and had refused to sign a notice of removal served to him by officials at an immigration detention center in Texas. On Tuesday morning, an attorney emailed the center after noticing their client was no longer showing up on the customs detainee locator, that's like the database, said the court filing. She was informed he had been removed from the United States. When she asked to which country her client had been removed, the email simply said South Sudan. Lawyers for the other client, a Vietnamese man, said he appears to have suffered the same fate or was on the same flight as the man from Myanmar. The Vietnamese man's spouse sent an email to their lawyer saying that about 10 additional people had been deported and they were from the following countries: Laos, Thailand, Pakistan, Mexico. None of these people are from South Sudan. None of them are from the continent of Africa at all. Please help, the spouse said in the email. They cannot be allowed to do this. Just so you know, the United States government's own travel advisory says do not travel to South Sudan due to crime, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The cruelty is the point. The infliction of terror is the point. There is no justification for these actions. I would love every Trumper who said that what they're doing to the Venezuelan men who've been sent to the torture prison in El Salvador is fine because they believe the lies of the Trump regime that those men are gang members. What do you have to say about this? None of these men have any accusation that they're part of a gang. Again, none of these men in any of these instances have been given due process at all. And what they are doing is in direct violation of judges' orders. What the fuck is wrong with all of y'all that you have so quickly gone from the party of small government and don't tread on me and the party of the Constitution, right? Republicans just a few years ago were like jerking off to the Constitution. Now they're like, no, let Trump do whatever he wants. We don't care. Let him do whatever. That sounds fun. Let him ship people off to a country going through civil war that is known for its high rate of brutality against immigrants. I realize that people who fall for authoritarianism, they have kind of stunted empathy, but like put yourself in the shoes of these men for 1 minute. You have had to flee your own home country because you are facing persecution, because you are looking for a better life, because you are seeking asylum. You're happily living your life. Maybe you're married to an American citizen and you're in the process of applying for citizenship. Maybe you're here with your green card. Maybe you're still waiting for your asylum application to go through because you may not know in order to apply for asylum in the United States, you have to enter the country first. When armed, masked men who will not identify themselves break into your place of work or to your home, or they snatch you off the street, they disappear you into a vehicle, they plunk you in a detention center, and the next thing you know, you are being shipped on a plane to a country where you do not speak the language. You have no ability to leave that country. That country is in the middle of a civil war, and you have been warned if you are an immigrant, there is a high risk that you will be assaulted, sexually assaulted, enslaved, unalived. What are we doing, America? Why are we tolerating this? Every member of Congress, where the fuck are you? I don't want to hear from any Democrat right now how there are legitimate reasons to vote for anything that Trump wants when this shit is going on. Where is the united party of no against fascism, against these human rights violations? These are atrocities. This is the kind of shit that's going to get adjudicated in front of tribunals. Every Republican in Congress, you are enabling this to happen. You are enabling the cruelty, the inhumanity, the violence that is happening now. Every day that goes by that you are failing to impeach Trump and his cronies for their myriad illegal actions, these people's blood are on your hands. I look forward to the day that you face accountability for being complicit in fascism, for violating your oath to the Constitution. What you are allowing to continue is unconscionable. And to all of us, I don't care if you're elected is red or blue, you need to be calling them about this. You need to be on the horn. Let them know your level of outrage. You have a Democrat elected, they need to be speaking out as a bloc. They need to be fighting this with everything they have. They don't need to be fucking voting for Trump's crypto bill, 16 Democratic senators. I'm looking at you. What the fuck are you doing? Why are you acting like this is politics as normal? Cory Booker, why the fuck are you voting for Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner's felon father, to be confirmed to be the U.S. ambassador to France? What the fuck are you doing? Mama D, to answer your question, how the hell do these atrocities keep happening in our nation? It's because our politicians are refusing to stop it. It's because the American people have not yet gotten to a place where we have built our muscle and the size of our resistance to be large enough to topple the pillars of support that are holding Trump up. It's because corporations, institutions like colleges, big law, members of Congress, and the media are all enabling what Trump is doing. They are all complicit. They are all collaborators. They have blood on their hands. Corporations, institutions, individuals are selling out all of the American people, selling out vulnerable people, killing people for profit. They are doing it to protect their profit margin or because they think they can enhance it, that they will prosper. They will build their piggy banks under the Trump regime. They are doing it because they lack courage, and that is why we, the American people, we must have courage. We know how to hold the line. We know how to stand up for what's right. We are appropriately horrified at the things that are happening, and we cannot sit idly by while every Republican in Congress sits on their hands, while establishment Democrats flip-flop all over the place and have yet to find their courage. I mean, momentarily, some of them reach out and grasp it, and then they're like, oh, no, I got to play the political game. Thank you to the progressive members of the Democratic Party who are standing up, who are standing strong, who are fighting with everything that they've got. And thank you to the American people. We have to continue to build the resistance because this madness must stop.
Hello, welcome back again. And you know, some of these creators' reaction is very raw, heartfelt, raging, and coming in its clarity. It's a confrontation, not just with Arab Americans who supported Trump, but with the entire pattern of those minority groups that once oppressed sometimes attempt to gain power by aligning with the systems that were built on the oppression of others. And at sometimes they also get oppressed by the same system. But now when the system tries to come with theatrical ideas to blind their eyes, they get tricked. And sometimes they attempt to gain the power by aligning with these systems built on the oppressions of others. The tragic irony lies in the belief that proximity to whiteness or alignment with authority will somehow grant safety or immunity. But white supremacy has no permanent allies. It has no permanent allies, only temporary tools. And that's why you also see when they try to affect or when they try to oppress, or rather I'll say when they try to attack the black community, they'll use one of them to attack. And that is made to work by making some of those black individuals feel that they are so close to immunity, yet they are not. And we can see that this has happened before, and it's also happening again. It has been happening. Yeah, this has been happening. And if you get back and plow back history, or you get back and plow the events that were there previously, you get to find when Arab Americans voted for Trump in 2024, many of them dismissed the warnings they were given by black people. They viewed it as melodramatic or divisive, something that I get to tell most of the Latinos, most of these minority groups, that you get blinded, man. You get blinded because when black people tell you about this, they've been born in these systems of oppression. They've been going through these since they stepped their feet on this planet. They've always been going through the same. And so when they tell you this, they know what they mean. They know what they have seen. So you better listen to them. You better listen to what they're saying and try to get the advices they get to tell you. And when blacks told the Arabs all this, and some of the minority groups that voted for Trump, and you get to see that some even went to an extent of mocking the black system, mocking their lived experiences as exaggerated grievances, criticizing them for not working hard or for complaining, without knowing there's this meritocracy that tends to blind your eyes. You feel that result or success is achieved by one working hard, without knowing that the system itself does not allow you to succeed by working hard. And most of the time I see these petty grievances as a cycle of betrayal, where marginalized communities forget their shared struggle and instead embrace the illusion of superiority. And now this illusion is collapsing. The ICE raids aren't stopping at the border or in brown neighborhoods. They've also come for Arab Americans. They come for Arab Americans, for green card holders, for refugees, for people who thought they were safe, people who believed in the myth of good immigrant. Some citizens, yes, citizens, rounded up and deported. No court could save them. Even after court stopped this, they still went ahead. And as Black told them, the machinery of state violence doesn't pause to differentiate. It does not care about degrees or contributions or quiet patriotism. No, it doesn't care about that. And so most of the time I say it doesn't have to be this way. Didn't have to be this way. If the black people, those minority groups could have listened to black people, if those minority groups could have stood together, if they understood that the pain of one group is warning to all others, them knowing that they are not immune to such oppression that others are going through. If solidarity trumped status, and if empathy had won the ego, maybe, I just say maybe, you wouldn't have been here. You wouldn't. I say you wouldn't have been here. Maybe these deportations wouldn't have happened. I believe people will get, maybe people next time will get to listen to each other, listen to advices they are given before they cast that vote. These are my views concerning this. I don't know what's your take, but let's keep on conversing in the comment section. Let's keep on engaging. And if this is your first time in this channel, we've greatly appreciated your time up to this point, man. We thank you so much. We are humbled to have you here. And you can also consider supporting us by simply subscribing, give us a like, share our content. We'll greatly appreciate, man. As I always say, stick together. Stick together. Let unity be the air that you breathe. You as minority groups. I've been your presenter to Rain, and as I always finish by saying that strong you are together and a weakened you are divided. So let's keep on uniting. Let's keep on working together for a better future. I'm hoping to see you in the next video. Goodbye.